you're at home. You're at home with Jim and Joy, and we want to hear from you. Give us a call at 205-271-2980 or 800-221-9460 or jimandjoy@ewtn.com. This is the third week of Advent, a time of rejoicing, and we have something special to rejoice about. Finally, a beautiful, wonderful family film being released this Christmas. Written and produced by Jeff Galley. We're going to speak with him personally, but first we want to go to the trailer of this wonderful movie. It's called Yellow Day. Let's take a look.
Which one are you? Are you the good man or the bad man?
Well, I'd like to think good.
I think so too. Have you been to Cape Grace before?
It's my first time.
But you're here for something more. Someone.
First feature, yeah.
I will help you find her.
Wow.
Michelangelo said that the sculpture was already in the marble. It was just waiting to be revealed. Look, some people are fully sculpted, some aren't. You just have more in you.
Wow. It's beautiful. Jeff,
Thank you.
It's great to have you with us.
I'm excited to be here.
You must be feeling proud in the best sense of the word for this beautiful film, Yellow Day.
Yeah, very blessed.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, sure. Well, Yellow Day, like you said earlier, is a family film. We wanted to create something that grandparents, parents, kids could all go together and see, and deal with real-world issues as well. And so those are some things that we really confront in the movie. The movie is basically, as you can see from the trailer, it's partially animated.
It's beautiful animated.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of work into it. But we took true stories from the outreach community and we made them into a fairy tale, but a fairy tale not focused on magic, but on miracles. And so that's what you see through the movie is a series of miracles, people overcoming challenges and tragedies by accepting grace and allowing that grace to shape them into who they are meant to be.
Well, it looks unbelievable, and I'm excited to go and bring our grandchildren. But where did the title Yellow Day come from?
Sure. It actually came from one of the true stories that's featured in the movie. It comes from Chrisanna Roberts. She was a young girl from our community in Mobile, Alabama. When she was 15 years old, the brain cancer that she had been battling all her life, she found out it finally had really taken hold, and she had about 6 months left to live. And the doctors asked her to name a color for the days when she felt well. So that color is yellow. The thing about a yellow day is it's not a day where you have everything go right. It's a day where a lot of things might go wrong, but you accept the grace that God gives you, and you allow that to make you a better person. So the movie is not a biopic about Chrisanna, although her story is featured in the movie. What we wanted to do was make a movie she could take her friends to, or her parents.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. And so it is filled with all of her imagery. You saw the butterflies, there are tulips, there's even other colors she likes, like purple and pink, a lot of symbolism of things that she would appreciate.
What could a movie like this do for parents and the children together? Can they learn together?
Yeah.
Have you set some things up for them to discuss? a film
Yes.
Like this?
One of the really cool things was we've been able to screen the movie across the country in front of over 1,000 people. One of the things that we had a grandparent come down to us right out after one of the first screenings. She had her 12-year-old son with her, and I'll never forget because she was so sincere. He's bright-eyed, very excited, and she said, "Thank you for making something I can take my grandkids to." The movie has that element to it, but we do deal with real life or death issues. Cancer, special needs, even things like domestic abuse at home. But we do it in a safe way. These are issues that kids are confronting now. It's just the way our society works. So what we wanted to do is create a way that parents can confront those issues with their children and discuss it, and that's what you see.
So this is going to be released.
Yeah, really cool. We're the only faith family film releasing on Christmas, which is a very rare thing to get a small film like us into select theaters, but major theaters. So we'll be in the largest markets, in the largest theaters, on possibly the largest Christmas release day in history. That's a miracle. But then we'll be opening nationwide January 8th.
Okay. So, and you have a fund where you can get this film into
Yes.
hospitals, so all the kids who are in there can see it. So, how would
Yes.
people get in touch with you?
Yes, absolutely. If you go to yellowdaymovie.com, you can see the theaters, also resources that we have for parents to be able to use. We're going to be extending that out as the release goes on, so you'll even be able to see more. And then there's a Give a Yellow Day fund. People like Chrisanna, sometimes they're so sick they can't get out of the hospital. We wanted to give away that they could see the movie. So we do have a fund that's opened where we're going to be able to give away digital downloads out of those donations. And then also we want to take it to hospitals so children can see the movie there.
Jeff,
That's
thank you
exciting.
so
Gosh,
much.
thank you. Thank
This is
you.
a great work. It's going to really build up the family, and it's going to help our young people not to be afraid of whatever they face, to have faith. So thank you so much. It's yellowdaymovie.com, yellowdaymovie.com. So we're going to take a break at this point. When we come back, we'll be with Cari Donaldson. Don't go away. We're coming right back.
God bless you. Welcome back. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and we would love to hear from you. So give us a jingle at 205-271-2980 or call toll-free 1-800-221-9460. You can always send us an email, jimandjoy@ewtn.com. Well, now we have a very interesting guest for you. Her name is Cari Donaldson. She's a homeschooling mom, raising a big family, a mother of 6. And her website is an interesting website. It's called clan-donaldson.com. And so she's doing a great and mighty work. She's an author of a great book called Pope Awesome, and she's going to tell us all about that and her journey to Jesus. So, Cari, welcome to At Home with Jim and Joy.
Thank you. I want to meet this person you just described. She sounds amazing.
She is amazing.
Is she coming?
She is amazing. She's here. Well, why don't you tell us your journey, your faith journey, where you came from, how you got to be where you are right now, sitting on this couch, what God did in your life.
Right. So I guess the Cliff's Notes version is I was raised, I'm an 8th generation Michigander, born and raised outside of Detroit. I was raised, I think culturally Presbyterian is what you call it. We went to church on Sundays, we went for Christmas and Easter, and just a number of different things. Partly is, Midwest sensibilities, and the other part is just how my family chose to live out their faith life. We left church at church. There wasn't a whole lot of talking about God outside of, we went to Sunday school and things like that. But to say that I was not a very grounded in my faith Protestant would probably be an apt description. I always wanted to know God, though. I always had this longing to have a relationship with him. I remember when I was very little, I've had a prayer life, which is one of the great gifts that the childhood of my faith gave me, was having a prayer life. And I remember from, the earliest years of my life praying to God. It was mostly, I would imagine, picking up a prayer phone at night and just chattering away to God. And my grandfather passed when I was 5 years old. And after he passed, I remember I would talk to God, about my days, things. And then I would say, hey, can you put my grandpa on the phone? And I would imagine God putting the prayer phone down and walking through the rooms of heaven and finding my grandpa. And, now we would understand that as the communion of saints.
Right.
But, I didn't know. It was just a natural, organic sort of thing. But as I got older, I had more questions about my faith that I couldn't find answers to. And the answers that I could find probably weren't explained in a way that sat very well with me. So by the time I left for college, a friend of mine had given me a book that was this historical novel that strove to strip all the miraculous and all the theological away from Jesus and just present this tale of just this man. Right. And it was really the last thing that I needed to say, what, Christianity, it is a bunch of bunk. I'm just going to throw it away. And so I went off to college feeling that I was free of this, patriarchal religion with Bronze Age morals, and I could go and, look bravely into this relationship that I wanted to find with God, whatever he, she, it was. And that coincided with going to college. And I ran headlong into the New Age movement. It was at first very attractive. There's a lot of, it's like a do-it-yourself spirituality. You can
Is
cobble
that how you
together.
would describe New Age? Do-it-yourself spirituality?
Do-it-yourself spirituality, yes. You're interested in this particular facet, and so you believe in that for a while, and then that ceases to, fulfill
Satisfy,
you.
yes.
Right, and so you go on somewhere else. It's sort of, now I look back at it, and it's sort of like an all-you-can-eat junk food buffet, but you think you're being nourished.
Right.
Like, you're not aware that you're consuming junk food. You really think that you're feeding your soul. But I never lost that restlessness. I would be at peace for a while, and then I just had that same longing and that same just sort of emptiness. And I always wondered, here I am, I've handcrafted this church of Cari. Why do I still not feel like I know God?
Right.
And I always prayed during those times, even when the prayer was nothing more than thank you for this day. And I don't know who I was sending it to or what I was sending it to, but I never... That's, one of the great graces looking back. I never had to struggle with atheism. I never really had to struggle with being an agnostic either. I always knew there was a God. My question was always, how am I going to order my life to have the best relationship with that God that I could? And ultimately, my time with New Age philosophy ended about the same time as college did. I came to the conclusion that the majority, well, really all of the New Age practices that I had involved myself in required you to worship a created thing. And, I'm not a very smart person, but I realized that if I was going to worship a created thing, I was stopping short, right? It's like looking at a beautiful painting and saying, this is a beautiful painting, I'm going to worship this, and not asking yourself, who
made the
created this?
painting?
Right.
Yes.
So that was the one great thing that being in the New Age movement really gave me, that piece of, now I would call it discernment, being able to look at any other spiritual or religious philosophy that came my way and say to myself, does that allow me to worship God, or is that asking me to worship a created thing?
Wow. Now, did this New Age philosophy and way of thinking, did it dabble in occult activity for you?
Yes, for me, and I'm so thankful that when I went through it before the internet was invented. There was no internet yet.
Yeah.
Because I'm that old.
Yeah.
But, so in order to be involved in any sort of cult activities, you had to go out and seek other people.
Right.
Because you don't have the same, sort of instant community. And, the internet has a lot of great things that it does, but one of the things that it does, probably not so great, is when you take like-minded people and create an echo chamber, you just sort of spur each other on to, more and more extreme views. And I see that now, so I'm thankful I was spared that.
Well, in terms of your story, it seems like your desire for spirituality, to really know God, was there, but you've traveled down some pretty rough roads in terms of New Age, even occult activity. what was the breakthrough for you to move towards Christ, the church? What took place?
Well, when I graduated from college, my husband, we were high school sweethearts. We got married, and he has been with me on this journey like the whole time, just as this long suffering witness to, you know, all my existential angst. And he's very good natured and, you know, just sort of took it in stride and, he didn't say much about it. And I remember one day during this particularly black period that I was having, you know, I didn't know where to go. I figured that, you know, and I was just ready to give up. And I remember him irritably saying to me, why don't you just pick something to believe in and just believe it?
Yeah.
And I was sort of taken aback because he never got, you know, this agitated about my spiritual, you know, agonies.
He was tired of that journey.
He was tired of it, but it really helped me realize that I needed to stay on this, that this was something that I needed to stick with. And so at that point, I figured, you know, I had exhausted New Age, occulty sort of things. Why don't I give, gasp, organized religion a try? Because I figured organized religion, it had a couple things going for it. It had to have been around for a long time. So it probably hammered out all the questions I still had about, you know, death, afterlife, last things. And an organized religion has a lot of people following it, so there was probably a lot of people who thought that their answers to the big questions were satisfactory.
Right.
So I would do that. So I started by looking at Buddhism because at that time I still clung to a belief in reincarnation, and I figured Buddhism was most in line with, you know, the sort of things that I was believing. And I quickly learned that Buddhism is not strictly speaking a religion. The question of whether or not there's a God is not one that is really addressed in Buddhism. It's more of a philosophical, it's more of a philosophy. So I realized, you know what, I really do believe there's God, and I really want to know God, so I need a theology. I don't need a philosophy, I need a theology. So I'll look at Hinduism, because, you know, Hinduism and Buddhism, they have, you know, share some common ground. So I started looking at Hinduism, and I realized pretty quickly that Hinduism is unique in world religions in that all the other great world religions, excuse me, you can pinpoint a founder. You can pinpoint the person who was sort of like the genesis of it. And from there, you can find how the religion was meant to be practiced at the beginning.
Right.
Hinduism's not like that. It sort of evolved from a bunch of cultural practices, so there was no way of knowing that the Hinduism that was practiced today is the Hinduism that was supposed to be practiced at the beginning. So that was important to me. And again, you know, now I can be like, aha, you know, because I see where this whole thing ended. But, you know, when I was living in the thick of it, I didn't realize how, you know, God was sort of gently setting the stage for where I would ultimately end up. And so then I looked at Islam. And Islam was tricky that I had learned unless you could read the Quran in Arabic, there was no guarantee that what you were reading was an accurate translation. And so I thought to myself, well, that's problematic. I'm not really good at learning new languages. And it's also odd that a religion can't safeguard its holy scriptures to be translated, you know, to
the whole
everybody.
world, right.
So that one didn't work for me. And then I looked at Judaism for a while, but then I had the very strange thought that declaring my independence from Christianity, but then becoming a Jew, was sort of like a child, you know, emancipating themselves from their parents, but then going to live rent-free at their grandparents' house.
Right.
So, you know, the same sorts of things that I felt that I had problems with Christianity sort of came up. So that left me where? Right? Nowhere. I figured I had exhausted all the world's religions. There was nowhere else to go. What was I going to do? And so God answered by moving my family down to Mississippi. And Mississippi was a culture shock for a nice Midwestern girl. There's some things that you just don't talk about. You don't talk about politics, you don't talk about how much money you make, and you don't talk about religion. And so moving down south, within half an hour of the moving truck moving away, we had met all of our neighbors because Southern hospitality is a real thing. And they all came over bearing some sort of gift. And the second question after, what's your name, was, have you found a church yet?
Right. They were going to evangelize you.
This was, and they had no way of knowing,
Right.
but the most sensitive thing they could have asked me.
Right.
And I remember calling my mom one day after we had moved in. I said, Mom, these people are so rude. They keep asking about what church I go to. And she said, you know, honey, she said, just tell them that you were married in a Presbyterian church and just play the odds that they're either Baptist or Pentecostal. And they'll be like, oh, she's a Presbyterian.
Right,
okay.
right.
So you're not lying. You're just sort of, you know. So we had one more neighbor to meet, and they finally came over. And when they said, "Have you found a church yet?" I said, "Oh, my husband and I were married in a Presbyterian church." And you know what comes next. They said, "We're Presbyterian."
You said, "Oh no."
And they said, "Let me call my pastor and he can come over." And I said, and I started edging to the side to try and let one of my dogs out so I could like end the conversation by chasing the dog or whatever. And my in-laws lived in the area, and they're Presbyterian. And so in a panic, I said, you know, actually, we're going to my in-laws' church, but thanks so much. And so now I'm stuck. We have to go to my in-laws' church once, right? Because I can't sit here and say, "I'm searching for you, God,"
right.
but then lie about it.
Right.
So my husband and I went to go to my in-laws' church, and, you know, I did not burst into flames or anything. And it was fine. But I came back, and I irritably, the internet had been invented at this point. So, you know, I figured, okay, I just need to just get rid of this whole Christianity question, right? I'm not going to worship something that's created. Everyone knows that Jesus is the Son of God, and sons are created, so duh. I just have to get this cleared up so when someone says, "What church do you go to?" I can be all haughty and say, "Actually, I don't worship a created thing."
Right.
So I think I typed into Google, like, "Is Jesus a created thing?" I don't remember what I typed in. But the first search result was the passage from John, that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And you know that phrase, like your blood runs cold, like when you're really scared? This was the exact opposite. It was like my blood was made of like warm honey. Like all of a sudden I realized that this whole time I'd been screaming at God, "Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me." And then when he tries to talk to me, his conversation to me is Jesus. And what do? I plug my ears and say, "No, I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear you. Why won't you talk to me?" So that was like my epiphany moment, right? So I realized I've been searching this whole time, and I'd come full circle, and Christianity was the way that I was going to have that conversation with God. And then I just had to figure out where,
Right.
which, you know.
Well, tell us about the story about the medal.
Okay, so we lived in Mississippi at the time, and my daughter, my oldest, she was like 2, and I was pregnant with our second, and I was taking my daughter to story time at the library, and she had to go to the bathroom, and while she was in the bathroom, I looked, and on the counter, there's this pile of like pamphlets, and I don't know what they are, I have no idea what they are, but they're red and black and white, and there was just something about them that just immediately was repugnant to me. I had no rational explanation for my immediate response to them, but I didn't want my daughter to see them. Like, that's just how, like, horrible it was. And I didn't even know what I was seeing. So I grabbed one of them, shoved it in my pocket, hid the rest of them behind the paper towels. She came out, blah, blah, blah. Later on that night while she was in bed, I opened it up, and it was something called a Chick Tract, which I had never seen. Again, it was a little comic that was supposed to show how Catholicism was demonic and all believers were going to hell. And it was very sketchily drawn, and even though I was rabidly anti-Catholic at the time, I loved saying that the Catholic Church was going to collapse under its own bloated weight, and if we were lucky, it would happen in our lifetime. So I was as far away from considering Catholicism as possible, but there was something so outrageous in these claims that I felt indignant on behalf of Catholicism. And I thought, this is not true. There's no way this is true. And I felt like I needed to defend Catholicism against this thing. Excuse me. So I went back to Google, and I figured I would let Catholicism teach me what it understood about itself. And so, I started learning more about it. And these late night, my husband worked second shift, so he worked very late into the night. So the kids would be asleep, and I could, internet search my way to some church.
To church.
To church. And during one of these rabbit hole sessions, I fell into a website called the Association of the Miraculous Medal. And it was one of those things that I understood the page to be written in English, but I could not put anything that they were saying in context. All I knew is that it was something about Mary, which gave me pause, because at this point I had come across a picture by a painter, and it was Our Lady sitting in a chair, and she's sort of sitting like this, and at her feet there's young Jesus and young John the Baptist playing. And the look on her face, this laser-like intensity that she's looking at Jesus, I said, that's what I want. I don't know where to find you, Jesus, yet, but I know I want to, and I want that focus on you. So, Mary, you're going to show me the way. I'm just going to follow you, Mary. I don't know anything about you because, I was raised Presbyterian, so she came out on Christmas Eve, and then she went away for the rest of the year. But I'm like, I will follow you, and it'll be like job shadowing. So when I got to this website that talked about the miraculous medal and how Our Lady had appeared to a French nun and said, I want you to have a medal created looking like this. I'm like, this is interesting. Okay, I'm with you so far on Mary, and there's a little button on the bottom that said, click here for a free medal. I'm like, click, and then promptly clicked away from the whole website because it was unbearably Catholic, and I just couldn't. No. So at the time, I was pregnant with our second. I was like out to here, see where my hands are. I was pregnant this big, and the doctor said that he was, or the baby, we didn't know was he, was breech, and I was scheduled for a C-section because it was so far along, baby wasn't going to turn, C-section. So a couple days beforehand, I went to the mailbox, and this envelope was here, and here's this little medal. I'm like, oh my gosh, the neighbors are going to see. So, I said, okay, Mary, I trust you. You're going to get me to Jesus. I put the thing on and just hid it underneath my shirt, right? So when the time came for the C-section, everyone was in. I'm like 5 minutes away from, going under. And the doctor comes in one last time to sort of feel my belly to see, where the incision's going to make. And he gets this strange look on his face and leaves the room, and he comes back with an ultrasound machine, scans me, and he sets it down. And he says, so when did the baby turn? I said,
Wow.
what? And he said, well, the baby's very large. You would have felt it. It would have been painful. When did the baby turn? I said, I don't, the baby turned? So I don't have to have a C-section? He said, no. I said, we're going to Bob Evans, let's go. So now, obviously I attribute it to Our Lady and Bob Evans.
That is so wonderful. Well, when we come back, we're going to take just a short break. We will have more of Cari and her wonderful story and her beautiful journey from Mary to Jesus to the Catholic Church. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and we're having a very interesting conversation with Miss Cari Donaldson. And she just got done telling us the beautiful story of Mary leading you, getting the medal, having the baby turn in your womb, and which is rather miraculous.
Yes, it was.
And why would God do a miracle for you? You weren't even Catholic yet, right? Isn't that the great mercy of God? It's so wonderful. Well, tell us how you further came down the road into Catholicism. Tell us more of the story.
So obviously, while I'm sitting there at Bob Evans at the C-section, I wasn't cognizant. I wasn't like, praise Jesus, there was a miracle. I had no idea. I just knew, I felt like I had dodged a bullet somewhere. And so I kept on with these late night internet searches, because I really wanted to learn what the Catholic Church understood about herself. I understood the Church to hate women, hate sex, hate science, hate lots and lots of things. I didn't know what the Church liked. And so I started researching more and more. And as I started researching more, I learned that from the very beginning, what the Church understood is a lot like what the Church understands now. And the big thing, the thing that clinched it for me, once I knew this thing, there was no running. And I tried, trust me, I tried. And that thing was the Eucharist. I came to the Catholic understanding that in the Eucharist, it's Jesus, body, blood, soul, and divinity. That in every host, at every Mass, around the world, there's actually Jesus there, not a remembrance like we would have, not a memorial or a celebration, but him actually there. And when I learned that, I thought, well, this is done, because obviously every Catholic, they either don't believe this or they're crazy, because there's no way that someone can actually believe this.
Right.
but God, what if it's true? Like, what if it's true? What if this whole time I've been like desperately searching you and you're waiting for me under this like round piece of, there's no way.
Right.
So I started learning about what the church fathers taught and understanding that from the beginning, this was our understanding of communion, of what it meant to be in communion, how we got to be in communion. And this thought it just pursued me. The thought that I could actually be so intimate with Jesus in not just, a brain sort of way, not just a heart sort of way, but in a bodily, physical way too. So I ran. I was done. There's no way that I can deal with this. So this took place right at the time when Terry Schiavo was dying.
Yes.
And every time you turned on the radio, all you would hear
Right.
was all the news reports. I think, oh, these Catholics, they're following me even on secular radio. Stop talking, Catholics. And then we lived across the street from a Catholic church. This big old Catholic church with a turquoise tin roof that you could not ignore. And it had the unabashedly Catholic name of Our Lady Queen of Peace. So it wasn't even like
You
I could
were so
pretend
set
myself.
up.
I couldn't even pretend like it was like, a nice Lutheran church, like St. Mark's or something. No. So Terry Schiavo and her final days are, playing out on like the world stage. And every time I'm driving past, here's this Catholic church. And then I notice that there's people in the parking lot all the time. It's like a Wednesday and they're there, and it's like a Tuesday and it's there. And it's because John Paul was in his final days, and people were there keeping vigil. And I thought, these Catholics, now they're like, I can't even get into my subdivision because they're parking all up and down the street. Duh, stop, right? So it was the last days before my son was born. And my family and I, we went to go have pizza somewhere. It was like this all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. And my husband
What
took
you
my
do
daughter.
when you have 6
That's what you
kids,
do, right? We only had, two
right,
at the time. So my husband took my daughter up to go get whatever pizza. And there were TV sets all over with no sound. It was just like the news ticker down at the bottom. And there was something going on. And I read the news ticker, and it says that John Paul has just passed. And I burst into tears. In the middle of this pizza place, I start sobbing. So I go to the bathroom, so people don't think, what's this crazy pregnant lady doing? Oh, those hormones. And I think this is what it's got to be, right? There's no other explanation. Why would I be so upset at the passing of this man that I don't care about? I don't know anything about him. And I was so puzzled by my response. But again, I just tried to put it away. So my son was born. He was, healthy, and everything was great. And we were driving back from my in-laws one day. He was shortly after he was born, and he was crying, so I got in the back seat with him. And as we're coming down the road and we're passing turquoise-roofed Our Lady Queen of Peace, and I'm thinking about, all these things that have happened, my husband turns in, and I catch his eye in the rearview mirror. And I say, honey, I think I want to be Catholic. And he goes, yeah, okay. And we drove the rest of the way home.
Wow.
And so we entered RCIA shortly thereafter, and the church that next Easter.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Carrie, that's an amazing story. And so then how did it affect all of your friends, your family? Did it have an impact on them? Were people upset with you that you became Catholic, or they just thought, this is just more of you on a spiritual journey?
I think some of everything that you just said, that there was a little bit of everything. There were some who, figured, she's a wackadoodle anyway. She just does like stuff. And some who were upset that, it was Catholicism, and some who, were just confused. It was hard to reconcile, the me that they have known throughout my whole life with this new me who says, hey, listen, I think that this is a great idea. Everyone should come over too. So, but, I think that one of the greatest things that we can do is share our faith in our lives, to just forge relationships with people, to welcome them into your home, to get to know people as people. And I think that that's the surest form of evangelization that we can do. Just let people know that, who they are is important. Everyone's story. Someone said that conversion stories were their favorite love story because it always has a happy ending.
Right.
And I think that everybody's story is so interesting.
Was there anyone in particular that you saw living the Catholic faith or the Catholic way that inspired you personally, or was it, more people that were globally known like John Paul II?
Even when we were going through the conversion process, our priest had mentioned something to me about having more children. And we had, a girl and a boy. And I,
Thank you very much. We're done.
right, I didn't understand what he meant. Like, I wasn't turning my back on a church teaching because I didn't know, the church teachings about being open to life. I couldn't even understand what he was saying. I had a boy and a girl. Why would I need more kids? And God had put us, how there's certain times and places in the world that just like there's this energy of people and ideas, they come together and they create something amazing. And I was lucky to be in a time and place like that. This was right along the same time that we decided we were going to homeschool. And so I got in touch with the Catholic homeschool group in the area. And the person who called me back, like the new member person, her name was Kim. And Kim is one of my best friends. And she said, hey, come on over. We always have these play dates. I'm pregnant with my 10th. I'm like, big long pause, right? That, now I get the same pause and I only have 6. And I think, oh. And so meeting up with this group of people, and it was amazing to sit at Kim's table week after week where these moms would come, and it was moms of, small families, big families, but they were all open to life in the fullest sense of the word. They were all open to honestly just trying their best to give their yes to God in each moment and be open that way. And I learned so much about my faith. It really was, a dining room table catechism. So many things that, were either glossed over or missed in our RCIA class. I really got there. So I feel like, I wish that everybody could have a Kim in their life, that everybody could have a community where it's an organic catechism. It's an organic sharing of the faith. It's, something comfortable, and the kids are running around, and you have to call poison control because someone's just had some Windex, and someone else has broken a wrist, and, just this place where you can see what it means to live out your faith in the trenches. And it was amazing.
And that is just so beautiful because those were credible witnesses of the gospel of life right before your eyes. I mean, and women on the same journey. Nobody's saying we're perfect, we have all the answers, we understand it all. Everybody just trying to work out their own holiness in their own way, saying plug in and become like us and join the journey, which is so beautiful.
Yeah, it was a great thing to have.
So people can find out the full story of your journey and conversion. Tell us the name of the book and the subtitle.
So I wrote a book. It's about my triple conversion to Catholicism and to motherhood, because, we weren't going to have kids when we got married, and to the pro-life movement. And it's called Pope Awesome and Other Stories, How I Found God, Had Kids, and Lived to Tell the Tale.
That is
Beautiful.
so great. Well, and you can purchase Cari's book at EWTNRC.com. It's item number 1563. Or you can call 1-800-854-6316. Maybe there's somebody in your family who's on this journey and you see them going down all these rabbit trails going, where are they going? What are they doing? Be of hope. Be of good cheer. Don't say, maybe this book is for them. Maybe you haven't gotten that Christmas gift or somebody's needing this. We want you to go to EWTNRC.com, item number 1563, and you can purchase Cari Donaldson's book, Pope Awesome, right? And which would just be so wonderful. Well, Cari, you delighted my heart. My heart needed to be delighted. I could listen to you all day. You just, I'm in awe of your journey, how you took Mary, and Mary took you to Jesus. And I mean that, because usually Mary's always the stumbling block. And it was so beautiful. I thank you. I thank you for your yes. I thank you for your credible Catholic Christian witness.
Thank you.
And I'm very delighted that you were here with us today. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have Father John Paul and Joan when we come back. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're joined with Father John Paul, and then we're going to go to Joan. But you know that you can come here. You are an important part of the family, and we would love to have you travel to Alabama, to this beautiful land, and take a pilgrimage to EWTN. You come here to the network, sit in our audience, be on At Home with Jim and Joy, and you could go to the shrine. You could come down with a busload of people. You could come down all by yourself and take a beautiful retreat. So send an email to pilgrimages@ewtn.com or call 205-271-2966. We would love to have you. Well, right now we're going to go straight to Joan. So Joan, what do you have for us today from Rome?
Welcome to Rome as we enter the first week of the Jubilee of Mercy. Now, as you know, just last Tuesday, December 8th, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, Pope Francis opened the Holy Door of St. Peter's Basilica and thus inaugurated the Jubilee of Mercy. And then over the weekend, a lot of important events on the Holy Year agenda also took place. On Saturday, there was the Mass for Latin America in St. Peter's, and on Sunday, the Pope opened the Holy Doors of St. John Lateran. Now, at Saturday, during Mass for Latin America, the Pope said Mary experienced the divine mercy and hosted the very source of this mercy in her womb, Jesus Christ. He said he hoped the Jubilee year would be a planting of merciful love in the hearts of individuals, families, and nations. But the Pope stressed, and this is so important, no sin can cancel Jesus' merciful closeness or prevent him from unleashing the grace of conversion, provided we invoke it. And he called on Christian communities everywhere to be oases and sources of merciful love. Sunday, of course, as I said, in St. John Lateran, the Cathedral of Rome, and the Pope's cathedral as Bishop of Rome, he opened the Holy Door there. And he noted when he spoke that on that same day, all around the world, in cathedrals of the world, holy doors were opened. He said the world would see doors of mercy being opened in places of poverty, need, and marginalization. And then the Holy Father, of course, said in his homily, the third Sunday of Advent, Gaudete, or Rejoice Sunday, he said this draws our gaze towards Christmas, which of course is close. We can't let ourselves be taken in by fatigue, he said. And, he said, sadness in any form is not allowed, even though we have reason to be sad with so many concerns and the many forms of violence that hurt our humanity. The coming of the Lord, however, he said, must fill us with joy. Well, lots more we could say, but time's up, so back to you at home.
Hi, Joan. We're grateful for Joan's report, and it's always so meaningful, always sharing so much about the Holy Father's been saying. And the one point that I really stuck out for me with Joan was that the Holy Father was saying, there's no sin so great that it could stop the release of divine mercy.
Of course.
And that's part of the trickery and the snare of the devil, to make people think, I've done this, I've thought this, I've said this, you know, so therefore God's, and he just wants people to know, not that he's saying, I dare you to commit sin, but he's saying there's nothing, no sin can stop the release of God's divine mercy.
I think every one of us, if we're honest, have fallen into that trap from the devil, thinking that God's mercy is so small and that our sin is so big. You know, and that's such a trap. And that's, as a new priest, I've only been a priest for two and a half years. I keep saying that, but I have to keep reminding myself. That's something that I help people in the confessional constantly that come to confession. And that's something you hear often. They say, Father, I've been avoiding confession because I just think that I'm just so ashamed, and I think that God can't forgive me. And I just make it very clear to them that nothing that they can do can block God's divine mercy. You know, we're the ones who put up the obstacles. I think I've said that often, and I preach about that often because I think that's true in the Christian life. We're the ones who put up the biggest obstacles from God's grace working in our lives.
The other thing that I thought I heard from Joan in the report from the Holy Father, it was something like he was admonishing the church not to get sleepy. And there was some passage in our recent readings where St. Paul said, don't grow drowsy, participating in drunkenness and carousing. And then he goes on and he says, or just the anxieties and activities of this world.
Can take you over.
You start falling asleep, you start getting drowsy. And
Well, that's what Advent's all about.
Right.
It's just wake up.
Right.
You know, wake up, Christians. Wake up, church.
And here we are in the third
You know,
week.
we're in the third week. Next week is Christmas. It's going to be here. We're going to light that fourth candle soon of Advent. I love Advent personally. Advent is as a short preparation before Christmas, and we were just exhorted this past Sunday to rejoice. Right?
That's right.
Gaudete Sunday.
That's right.
You know, to rejoice in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice.
Yeah. What did you think of the Lord's work and Our Lady's work and Cari Donaldson's life? It
speaking
really
about
fits with what
joy.
the Holy Father is saying about mercy.
Yeah, and you know, Carrie's story was great, and you know, she shared how every story that she listens to, she never gets tired of listening to stories about conversion, about stories about people turning their lives over completely to Jesus, because every story is different.
Right.
Every story is unique. And I couldn't help but think that she was talking about the miraculous medal, right? And I couldn't help but think about the miracle of Alphonsus Ratisbon. Have you ever heard of that miracle? I'll let our viewers, I won't do a big explanation about that, but just have our viewers look up on that. And he was a Jewish man whose brother had become a priest. And the family was completely antagonistic of his brother becoming a priest. And basically his brother, the priest, challenged him to wear the miraculous medal. And it was in a church in Rome that he really, through wearing the miraculous medal, that Alphonsus Ratisbon received a complete infusion of all the truths of the Catholic faith in one instant.
Wow.
It's such a beautiful story to look up. You know, I would encourage our viewers to look that up, the story of Alphonsus Ratisbon.
I just loved hearing her story, and you know, I too, as I'm a convert, and one of the only books I read, as Jim's bedside had 15 books as he was reading and going back to the
Sounds
early
like my
church fathers
Sounds
and
like my bedside.
reading, and he's the intellect, and I was doing the stories by Patrick Madrid, just surprised by truth. And so I'd read these little stories. Oh, that was a nice story. How this girl either reverted back or converted back, but they were all just little seeds that God keeps planting as He was wooing me to Himself in that way. And I loved. You know, Carrie was sharing too about her husband. You know, when she just said, "Okay, I want to become Catholic," he was like, "Well, okay." You know, how beautiful how he was with her on that journey of faith that she took.
It's like looking at a beautiful diamond. You know, a diamond has many different facets, and you can look at different facets. You can look at a diamond from, especially a microscope, and all these people with different conversion stories show us different facets of the beauty of Christ and the beauty of the church, the sacraments, especially our Blessed Virgin Mary, who I would dare say, it's really her who takes our glasses off. You know, our spiritual glasses, cleans them, you know, and allows us to see the beauty of reality, the beauty of the faith, the beauty of Christ, her Son, everything, all of salvation. She shows
Joy and
us.
I, with so many other people, have recently, I guess about 2 years ago, made a special consecration to Jesus with Mary. And you were talking about, she's the one that takes the glasses off and we can see, or whatever, it gives us the right vision. For me, it was like after asking her, or giving her my gifts, talents, and abilities, whatever, and saying, perfect them before Jesus for me. It was kind of like, making a bed, and I do make beds, along with her. She makes beds.
You do make beds.
I do make the bed.
Thank God.
But it's like your life is like the making of a bed. And it seemed like in my relationship, sharing with people, my evangelization, it was like after I shared with somebody, it was like Mary went back and touched up the bed that I had just made, just kind of tightened it or made it nice or whatever. And when she's really in our lives, when she's welcomed into our lives, she just makes everything so much better and so much more beautiful. And we can see differently. And even if we don't see, she's seeing for us.
Well, the wedding feast of Cana is a great example where somebody invited Mary to a wedding and Jesus, and at the insistence of Mary, Christ's first miracle took place. His first public miracle at his mother's insistence.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Father, why don't you give us a blessing at
Happy
this
to.
important time of year?
Sure. Family, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he turn his face to you and be merciful to you. May he show you his kindness and give you his peace. And may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit descend upon you and remain with you forever. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I just want to encourage, all our viewing audience, everyone at home, especially, as we're coming up and hearing Cari's story, just about mercy, to really be respectful of everybody's journey, whether they're your children or your grandchildren, they've wandered far off.
For sure.
Look at what God did with Cari. Look at what God did with me. Look at what God did with Jim. To really be encouraged and to be full of mercy as you journey with them, and some of us suffer along with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, how God loves you, how he's always searching for you. He's searching for those that have broken your heart. Maybe it's a child or a spouse or whomever. That God is seeking people just like that to reveal his divine mercy. May God bless you and bless all of your loved ones this day and always. Keep it on EWTN. Bye now.